Hello, my name is Barbara Kay, and on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I really would like to welcome you to our program, Mosaic. The Jewish Community Relations Council is holding a very special meeting, and we have the opportunity to bring you some of the speakers. We'll be back with our guests and our program right after this brief message.
The patients who come to us after illness or injury are often in pain and fearful of losing their independence. I make it my mission to treat them like family. I listen to their concerns. I help them heal and gain strength. My goal is for them to not need us. To know that I help them, there's no better feeling.
Morse Life Short-Term Rehabilitation.
Morse Life Health System, honoring senior living.
Our Jewish Federation has accomplished so much, and still, needs keep growing. You can help us do even more. Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
Welcome back to Mosaic, and welcome to you, Professor.
Thank you.
I didn't realize, Steve, that you were a professor.
Yes, a professor of public administration at Barry University in Miami.
Well, that's very impressive, but you're also, it's very impressive because you're the chairman of the JCRC campaign, or institution, as I should say.
Well, the JCRC is really, as far as I see it, the political arm and the education arm of the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County. We provide events such as the one we're doing tonight, where we educate the community and try to get the community engaged. We bring together not just the Jewish community, but other areas of the community. We've done programs with the Christian community, the African American community, the Muslim community, and tonight's event is very much in line with our other events where we are engaged with the broader community in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, we were talking about it before I was on the program. I was saying that this is like a little bit of a piece of what's going to take place this evening, which should be very exciting when you talk about human rights and issues, ethical issues. Tell me why the JCRC is so perfect for this at this time.
Well, we are the Jewish Community Relations Council and of the Federation of Jewish Agencies, and the Federation uses us to help engage the community, to go out to the community and provide these types of programs to educate the community and to bring issues, whether they be local, within the United States, or international issues, to the public forum. And I feel very well placed in what I do for a living as a professor. Being the chair of the JCRC has actually allowed me to shine a little bit better and to bring the best I can to the Jewish Community Relations Council.
Why is it so important now for us, particularly, to embrace all people, all sizes, shapes, colors, everything, and beliefs? Why is it so critical?
We don't live in a vacuum, whether we're Jewish or Christian, Muslim, whatever we are. None of us live in a vacuum. We have to live within the world community. The world, of course, seems to be getting smaller and smaller with the communications. So we want to live with the world community and all prosper. And as such, although the JCRC is really concerned with the Jewish community, being concerned for the Jewish community involves and requires the bringing in the larger community. So that's really, as I see it, why we need to work together, or the communities, the Christian communities, Jewish communities, etc., need to work together in the world we live in today. We have, the event tonight is highlighting some horrible atrocities going on in Syria and Iraq with ISIS and the selling of young women into sex slavery. And we feel, as the JCRC and the other partners within the project that we're doing tonight, we feel we need to essentially educate the community on what's happening. And this is not actually specifically a Jewish issue. These are Yazidis and Christians and other minorities who are being sold into sex slavery. But it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to work with the larger community to educate people and to help find ways to solve these horrendous problems going on in the world today.
Yeah, we're having Maman on at the end of the program, who we were talking about saving and helping non-Jewish children, mothers, women in Syria and in Iraq, and what he has done is amazing. I mean, he's really a hero. So it's very important to make people aware of all this. But can I ask you a question? Do people really? Are they willing to listen? Are they? Do they absorb all this information, or what do they do with it? See, that worries me.
Well, people are engaged at whatever level they're comfortable with, but if they don't know what the issues are, they don't know how to be engaged. I mean, something as simple as I teach my students that when you finish with this particular course, if you've never voted, now you vote, that's success. In the same way that people who come to our events, if they have an aha moment, oh, I didn't know that, many of them will ask to be involved. I get calls quite often, put me on your list, put me on the distribution list so I see what's going on. Others say, hey, how can I volunteer? So at whatever level people are comfortable at. But the old adage, we don't know what we don't know, that's our job, is to tell people what they don't know and let them make that decision.
So actually, what is literally going to take place tonight?
Well, we have Steve Maman speaking about his effort to rescue. That's the word. Thank you so much.
You're
to
welcome.
rescue Yazidis, young women who are sold into sex slavery, and his effort to raise money to buy them out, so to speak. And we have two other speakers, one from the Washington Institute. The primary speaker, frankly, is Steve Maman, but a gentleman from the Washington Institute will be speaking, and then Professor Rabil from FAU, who's well known in our community for his effort.
What do you want the people to take away from this?
Well, I want the people tonight to know that there is a problem. Unfortunately, what's going on with the Yazidis and other Christians, but largely the Yazidis who are sold into sex slavery by ISIS, people don't know. We want them to know. And then beyond that, I can assure you that in the next week or two, I'll be getting emails and calls from people saying, hey, I didn't know this. What can I do? How can I participate? Because people just don't know. And it's a shame. People just don't know what's going on, and we're here to educate people on this important, vital issue that's going on.
Well, good luck tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's a pleasure to have both of you here.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having us. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And David
and Robert.
Robert.
Thank
yes.
you.
It is a pleasure because both of you have enormous background in the Middle East and in Arab affairs with the United States. And we're here for a special reason. We're supposed to talk about the values of taking care of people and the truth. And you're here to give some information. Now, we have a terrible situation that's going on in the world. Why is this Middle East becoming such a upside down situation for us that we can't deal with and we're having problems? What do you say?
David, you want to go first?
You can go first, David.
Listen, I think the Middle East is a complicated area. There are great differences, sectarian problems that are ongoing. There is a issue between Sunnis and Shiites, between Arabs and Persians. We have 4 or 5 years after the Arab Spring, the so-called Arab Spring,
where became the winter,
where populations rose up against authoritarians. And we just have a chaos in a number of areas. We have, at the same time, an administration that has been wanting to withdraw from the region, to play less of a role, certainly militarily, but also in some ways politically. And there have been vacuums, but the center, the heart of this issue is really at what's happening now in Iraq and in Syria, 2 countries that are verging on failed state status.
Yeah, well, I tell you, do you want to add something to that?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes, I'll put it in historical context. The Middle East did not evolve as other regions in the world, and the ideologies that went through the Middle East somehow they became radicalized. I will give you an example. You did have certain reform at the end of the 19th century. You had a huge school of reform. Muslims came and they wanted to reform, and that reform in part led to, for example, Arab nationalism that started with the Christians, and it was imbued by Western value. But then what happened? It was overtaken, co-opted by the Ba'ath Party, strident, anti-colonial Arab nationalism that espoused communist ideal and Leninist ideal. For example, the concept of popular struggle, the concept of the vanguard party. So here, what do you have now with this? You have the emergence of an order that was a totalitarian, not even authoritarian order. And on the other hand, you know, if you go to the Gulf, you have conservative policy led by conservative countries. Then what you have a failure of Arab nationalism throughout the Arab world. And this is where Islam or Islamism as a political ideology, using religion as a political ideology to mobilize society, came in and said, listen, Islam the solution. So after 1967, and especially after 1979, the Khomeini revolution, Islamism started to become extremely vocal. So what do you have now? You have some kind of a struggle among themselves. And what happened after that? You have the Saddam Hussein invasion of Kuwait that shattered the regional order, and then came the US invasion. By the US invasion, what we have accomplished in the Middle East, we were able to destroy the regional order. But us as a nation and as a superpower, we were not able to create a new regional order. So what do you see now? You see a lot of regional power jockeying for power to try to build a new regional order. And at the same time, the ideologies of the Middle East, really, they are hackneyed ideologies. They are not really, somehow when I look at them, I see them on a par with the aspiration of the young Arabs. And this is where you have this imbalance, and you have a great imbalance. And more so, I would say, again, in the Middle East, you have a crisis throughout. But the most significant and the most deepest crisis, I look at the Middle East, I see it in the Sunni world. The Sunni world and ISIS, when I look at it, or the Islamic State, when I look at it, I see it at the latest manifestation of the Sunni crisis that is ongoing in the Middle East.
Well, that was...
It's a mouthful.
That is, well, I have to tell you something, you're right, it's so complex.
Well
how in the world, David, yeah, but how in the world, let me ask you something. We live in a democratic world.
Yes.
We understand it. Our government understands it. Is there any possibility whatsoever for us to ever make contact with any of these people that are creating this conflict? I mean, what about ISIS? What about the drastic behavior of ISIS? How can we ever reach any kind of an agreement with people who really don't understand us, and we don't understand them from a cultural point of view?
So these are authoritarians. These people are not capable of compromise. They have chosen a path that is absolutist. There is no common ground here.
That's
right?
What I'm saying.
Yeah. They attack minorities. They hate Persians, Shiites, more than they hate Jews. There is no room for anybody else in the Middle East other than this strict, austere type of Islamist, authoritarianism. So no, there's no dealing with them. There is attacking and destroying. You can't just contain, because the ideology traverses borders.
Yeah, but we're here today to talk about truth and try to create some sort of an environment where people understand one another and they can embrace one another in some form. Otherwise, we'll have chaos for the rest of our lives in that area in particular. Don't you agree?
Yes, I agree. And it's going to take time. And it's going to take time. You have to be committed. You have to be committed to the people to whom you are going to speak about. It's extremely important. And now in the Middle East, for example, in Syria, look at what's happening now in Syria. You have a problem sorting out with whom you are going to speak, given that you have so many organizations within the Syrian opposition. So really, you have first to be aware, you have to know the area, and totally, absolutely, and I agree with David. With ISIS, I don't want to have anything to speak with ISIS. ISIS needs to be uprooted in the Middle East. ISIS is a Salafi jihadi organization that we have absolutely no common ground, and to me, I look and I see indeed a clash of civilization with ISIS, but I don't see a clash with the other people, and this is where I would like to speak with those who are moderate, and most of them, but I cannot myself speak with what I call the Salafi jihadi, who come in different forms and shape, whether in Syria or Iraq or Saudi Arabia or Algeria or Nigeria, and now recently in Indonesia and Philippines.
Robert, I think it's important also, if we're going to be talking about the truth, you're looking at what's happening in Syria. There's between 250 and 300,000 people killed, more than 4 million refugees out of the country. Half of the country is internally displaced. But these people, only 1,000, 2,000 people have been killed by ISIS, right? Everybody's being killed and everyone is fleeing the Assad regime, right? This is the secular Arab nationalist regime that is being backed by Iran and Russia, right? And so the path to getting out of the crisis in Syria is not by embracing Assad or somehow giving him another year and a half, 2 years in power, which is what the administration is now negotiating for. Because we have to remember, ISIS, as this strict, austere, authoritarian Islamist group, they are in large part attacking what they see as a Shiite regime in Damascus, this Alawite regime of Assad. The longer that Assad is in power, the more potent and support that groups like ISIS will get.
You want to know something? I was going to ask you to conclude this segment about your prognosis for the future, but I don't think I'm going to. Because if you feel as heavy-hearted as I do and concerned, the future is very, very bleak. That's what worries me. But I want to thank you both for sharing your views with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Good luck tonight. We'll be back with the remainder of our program after this brief message.
What if you could change the world? You can. We can do it together. With the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, you are here, and we are all connected. Together, we can enrich Jewish life, care for vulnerable populations, and build global Jewish community. That's what we do, every day, here at home and around the globe.
They say that caring for the elderly is a profession of the heart. As the director of home health care at Morse Life, I know that to be true. When I see an older person feeling safe and secure at home, I know I've done my job. To make a difference, to show compassion, dignity, and respect, it's not just our job, it's our mission.
Morse Life Home Healthcare.
Morse Life Health System, honoring senior living.
Welcome back to Mosaic, and welcome to you, Steve Moran. What a pleasure. You're the hero of this evening, from what I understand.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, tell them about CYCI. CYCI. Tell them what it means.
The liberation of Christian and Yazidi children of Iraq.
Yeah. You got involved with that. How?
I went to buy cars in Iraq. I went to buy assets that used to belong to Saddam Hussein, which were vintage collector cars. That's what I do for a living.
Uh-huh.
I travel the world buying vintage collector cars.
Yeah, and?
I sent a team to Iraq to locate the cars and engage into negotiations with the government, the Baas Party. I met a priest there. His name was Canon Andrew White, the vicar of Baghdad. We developed a certain friendship, and I supported a bit of his cause. And obviously with time I found out of his involvement with the Iraqi and the US government there. He had a great team around him to protect him. In August of 2014, sadly, we saw what happened in Sinjar with the ISIS beheading Yazidis. And that's when I realized that I should maybe contact Canon White again and see how I could find a way in order to help these innocents. And that phone call basically just changed my life.
Changed your life.
Changed my life.
Yeah. Well, how did you, in other words, first of all, how did you get them out? In other words, how did you get control of the situation? That's not easy.
Canon White, thanks to the Pentagon, has the strongest security team to protect a man. 35 elite soldiers. The head of his security team's name is Dawood Jaju, an ex-US embassy employee that used to handle hostage negotiations. Happens to be his son.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
And we became very, very friendly because he was catering to certain Jews of the area. And I admired his courage for doing so. And I told him, I need your help with something. Do you think that we can get some of those children back to their families, to their village? He says, in Iraq, everything is possible. So he came to Canada. Canon White came to Canada. We had an appointment with the office of the Minister of Defense of Canada as well. And at my house, we had an event. And we discussed a lot of the potential of what CYCI could become with everybody involved at my table. And we planned it. And today we have 140 human beings that made it back.
Really? 140?
140 so far.
That's really like the tip of the iceberg.
I was hoping for much more, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Sadly, ISIS has retreated and taken everybody, all the girls back with them because they were getting attacked by Iraq recently, by Russia, etc. It's much more difficult. It's turning out to be much more difficult. But CYCI is still very active in the humanitarian sector, bringing a lot of help to these innocents.
Yeah, actually, the Montreal, you're from Canada, naturally. The Montreal Jewish community really helped you in the beginning.
The first 5 days was magical. 5 meetings, $125,000 raised. I realized there was divine providence and assistance to this project, so I just went full force. I had my wife from the beginning that actually supported the idea of sponsoring families to take them out of the area. So we had sponsored 3 families. And then we expanded the mission to the liberations, and from there it just went viral. It went all over the world. The support was amazing.
You know what's amazing, though? You say the support. Basically, how do people find out about what you're doing? I mean, if it weren't for something here like today and tonight, how do they find out actually how they can help?
I think it was Breitbart newspaper that had called, they had named me the Jewish Schindler.
Jewish Schindler, yes.
And it became a sensation overnight. There was some 600,000 or 700,000 articles, Google scores,
really?
that came within weeks.
Huh.
Fox News, Mark Levine show. Mark Levine was a turning point for me.
Why?
Mark Levine did a lot of research on us with his attorneys before putting me on his show. When he had read the Jewish Schindler, it caught his eye. And we raised $500,000 in 3 days with him. He helped us.
Really?
Through the show, yes. And we went into Iraq full force. We had raised $800,000 total, and we went in full force.
Wow.
We distributed thousands and thousands of jackets and boots and fuel for heaters and flour, food. I mean, it just it's a project that doesn't stop. And now we have our eye on Lesbos, Greece.
Greece.
We will be there next week. We have the 6 strongest volunteers that ever worked with CYCI are headed to Lesbos. Some trauma medic doctors, lifeguards, professional lifeguards, some very strong people from Germany. We have also a division called CYCI Germany.
Really?
And they're also headed to Lesbos. And we have a goal. We're going to take out hundreds and hundreds of Yazidis out of their daughters stranded.
You know, it's amazing. First of all, it's interesting that you're focused in that direction. I mean, is it part of your Jewish ethic, or?
I will tell you that the Holocaust is something that has deeply touched me in school.
Yeah.
The school we went to emphasized a lot on where we were from, what happened to us as a people. So the Holocaust, something we were taught in every single grade.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mix the education we got in Canada, which is to accept everybody, to be open to all other religions, while retaining your Judaism and very strong identity,
mm-hmm.
and coming from a Moroccan country, I was born in Morocco, in a Muslim country, and Jews were in Morocco prior to Islam existing.
Yes.
And we never had a genocide in Morocco.
Oh, it was very peaceful.
It was 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some isolated incidents like any country, but never a genocide for 1,000 years. When you put together the fact that I have no issues with Islam at all, I come from an Islamic country, and my education in Canada, I'm able to look past the fact that Iraq had sent 39 Scud missiles to Israel during the first Gulf War, and today I'm helping Iraqis without even thinking twice, because I see human beings that are suffering. I see that I have a chance to do something. I see that it was put in my hands. Daoud Jaju, working for the embassy, a hostage negotiator, we became very close friends. And when I told him we're going to go rescue Assyrian Christians and Yazidis, and I was going to finance the whole operation, it took him 10 seconds just to say, yes, the team's going to be ready. I'll have 5 people ready for you immediately. When do we start? The first children that came out, I was crying on my desk. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how easy it was. And I told him, hold on a second. How much more could we do? He says, we're going to do as much as we can. And we're going at it full force.
You know something, you make me feel so good. It was a blessing to meet you. You really are amazing. I'm so proud to have the chance to sit and talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I was extraordinarily impressed by what I heard today. And all of us have to listen and do the right thing. Be with us again next week when we have another look into the Jewish world. Goodbye from Mosaic.